All right, everyone. Yesterday we had a major victory for freedom, which is in a case involving Trump's Twitter handle. His Twitter feed has now been declared by a federal judge to be a public forum. It should go further, though. I mean, this is a good decision. No, the President of the United States shouldn't be able to block people. But it needs to go further. The biggest problem with maintaining the First Amendment in the tech era is that a handful of big corporations are capable of acting on behalf of government to stifle people, to basically go after people's right to privacy, giving user data to governments that can't gather it themselves. We've already seen this with the NSA. We've already seen this with Facebook. In the case of the First Amendment, banning or suspending, manipulating conversation, conducting propaganda on government's behalf, the government can't do these things. The government can't come in and say, well, we're going to prevent you from using a website to communicate certain ideas because we don't like them. You're criticizing the government. You're criticizing a government official. You're critical of Trump, or you're critical of the Dems. You're critical of Ron Paul. It doesn't matter. Government can't legally do that. It is bound by the First Amendment. It's not able to do so. But a private firm, unfortunately, at the moment can. When you have monopolistic firms that are partnered with government anyway, telling people what they can and cannot say beyond the realm of U.S. law, I find that unacceptable. I think it should be clearly unconstitutional because they work hand in hand with government. Government individuals have a presence there. What they're saying essentially is that a person has a right to take part in a conversation within the context of a legitimate legal public forum, which is Trump's Twitter feed. Very well. Twitter, then, unless someone is doing something illegal, should not even be able to block people from using Twitter. It should be rendered a public utility because it contains a public forum that you need an account to access. Somebody needs to go forth and make this argument, and Mark Dice was alluding to it. I suggest a class action suit by people who have been banned by Twitter. I really do. And I really think that they would actually prevail in a federal court. Because the argument's pretty cut and dry. If that is a public forum, you need a certain ability to be able to access it. Well, otherwise, you could have a situation where the government just decides to headhunt, literally, behind the scenes using bot armies or, the troll farm or whatever, to prevent its critics from having an account there, to get them suspended. You could end up with a weird situation where we have to make one of two choices. These big tech firms are public utilities. They're bound by the rudiments of the First and Fourth Amendment. Government doesn't get to abuse people on them. The sites have a right to make money, but they don't have a right to discriminate against people who are not breaking the law. We either do that, or we're going to get a situation where a lot of governments deliberately try to get people kicked off of these sites. Governments, not even necessarily the U.S. government. Corporations, political third parties, some NGO, some activist group, or craptivist group as it may be, government officials, would-be candidates, their teams, their staffers, their fans, they're all going to be at each other's throats. We're already seeing this, by the way, begin. Government be warned, we're already seeing it. While you're sitting there worried about a couple of Russian propagandists buying some Facebook ads, the real story is that raiding parties of political hacks are constantly organizing on third sites to try to fuck over YouTubers and Facebook pages and major Twitter handles. That's what's happening. It's not just simply political. It was not. Religion has come under fire in some cases. Social views, philosophy, elements of education that somebody might find offensive. We've got a moral busybody culture, and it needs to be nipped in the bud before it literally destroys our ability to communicate. Human beings primarily, at this point, communicate using big tech firms. Now, we've got alt tech, but the problem is those big tech firms have a lot of money. They can lean on a domain registrar through some third party to kick an alt tech site right off. The alt tech sites, by the way, they need to band together. Like, you need to get a situation where the people who run BitChute and PewTube and all of these others, Gab and Minds, need to sit down and figure out how to get a true domain registrar going. They need to do that, along with the Cloudflare-style movement in order to protect their websites. They need to have they need another layer of protection, because it's clear that what they've got now doesn't work. Gab already got kicked off of one registrar for no reason whatsoever. It's individual users say something on a platform, therefore the platform is to blame. That's a little bit like when BuzzFeed comes out and says that a user who's streaming is responsible for the content of their super chats. They're not the ones making them. Anyone else can flag them, but somehow it's their fault. I'll tell you why. It's all about the money. BuzzFeed finds it convenient to make that stupid argument. And it is a fucking stupid argument. They're getting tired of having to compete with people who have no overhead and, basically sit in front of a webcam and make more money than their pundits do. It must be real. They're so jealous because nobody at BuzzFeed has the actual ability to do that. Do you think any person at BuzzFeed has the talent to do, what I do? Let alone some of these people who stream 4 hours a day, every single day? I don't have that kind of stamina. There's a reason that I stick to standalone video. I much prefer it. It's the original gangsta style of YouTube, and I'm sticking with it. No, if Trump's Twitter is a public forum, his Twitter page, you can't be banning people then unless they're actually breaking a U.S. law. You can't ban someone for being offensive, shadow ban them from participating in that conversation. What about if somebody is participating there, but Twitter has decided, for some totally subjective, arbitrary reason, that they don't like what they're saying, so they decide to hide their commentary? Well, you've prevented them from accessing what is now a public forum. A federal judge has ruled on this. A part of Twitter is a public forum. It's stored on your servers. How are you going to prevent people from not being able to communicate on that public forum, now legally recognized by something just shy of the Supreme Court of the United States? You are a U.S. firm. You're bound by the decision. How are you going to not abuse people then if you're banning them for, something totally innocuous happens elsewhere on your site? Something you consider it offensive, you consider it harassing. Try making that argument in front of a court. It's going to be impossible for you to make that argument. This turns Twitter one step more towards a public utility. Good. It's about time it be rendered so. I would say the easiest thing to do is just have a constitutional amendment. And the easiest thing to do is go into a convention strictly for one purpose, and that's to protect the internet and free speech and privacy thereon, because it goes past the partisan. Look, if Democrats are in charge, Republicans are going to be worried about being abused. If Republicans are in charge, they're going to worry about Democrats being abused. But if someone's getting abused, potentially for political reasons, they should all have a reason to stand together on this. People need to lean on Congress to fucking do something about it. It shouldn't require a federal judge to make clear what should already be clear. If you have a service, it is monopolistic, it is government intertwined, it donates money to political campaigns, it hosts politicians on it from every state in the fucking world. You can find a Turkmen politician on there. They probably have an official embassy page too. It's a public utility at that point. It is a major source of human communication in real time that is important for public safety as well. What? So somebody can't register a Twitter account. What about their access, therefore, to USGS updates or something like that? They're being discriminated against. You are hosting these services that have become more important than the original service themselves. If somebody gets a USGS Quake update, they're probably getting it via Twitter. They're getting a message there. Yeah, I'm sure, though, they signed up for email. That's going to be, of course, yes. People still use what amounts to tech-era snail mail instead of just doing it real time. No, I'm sorry, but something needs to be done here for the public good. People make this stupid argument, oh, they're a private company, then they can do what they want. That doesn't always apply. No, there is such a thing as equal protection under the law. And it is, yes, in the realm of human communication possible for there to be a public forum that exists on an otherwise private site. Well, we've got one now. Twitter's feed is a public forum. If somebody's speaking on that forum and gets shadow banned or something, they have been discriminated against. It's against the law as of this moment, which is a good thing. I'm sure Twitter will probably come out swinging and say, no, it's not a public forum. We deny this. Yeah, it's going to be really funny because it'll look like they're defending Trump. That's the funny part. I doubt that Trump would even care. The fuck does he care? Like, he goes around manually blocks people off of his Twitter page. So now, I guess the people who run POTUS will have to go through and unblock everyone, which is like, they should. Yeah, I mean, fucking, if you don't like what someone's saying, just ignore it. You're a politician. You don't have thin skin. And I don't think that Trump does. I think other people have made it an issue. It's like the NFL anthem protests. Like, I don't really care about people kneeling during the anthem. I also don't care if the NFL is a private franchise. Shouldn't they be able to punish people as they see fit? No, say the liberals. That's different because, free expression, free speech. Okay, free expression and free speech. That's what's at question here on Twitter, on YouTube, and elsewhere on the internet. People should have a right to express themselves on any site that's within the United States. That communication is subject to some federal degree of authority anyway, because it certainly crosses borders now, doesn't it? Of course, they're constantly arguing that data is not a tangible thing, so it's not subject to the Fourth Amendment. It's very slimy when they argue this. And it's like, come on, it's common sense that it is protected by it. The courts, thankfully, have largely shown that. That's about all. Peace out.